welcome to the programme, sir. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
First of all, the goal of Conservative Republicans here appears to be to get this issue all the way up to the Supreme Court. How likely do you think that is?
It really depends on the Supreme Court itself. They have the discretion to decide what cases they hear. They've become increasingly active as their membership has changed, and they now have 6 that are Republican appointed and are increasingly to the right, so they may choose to flex their muscle, so to speak, and hear more abortion cases. The problem with this one, to the extent that it's a problem, is that they know that it's illegal under current law, but it's so restrictive that it may be too far to the right of existing policy, such that the court may not want to take this particular one up. So it really depends on the attitudes of the justices. Do they want to reach out and do a more dramatic examination and possible change of the existing law, or do they want to do it incrementally? That's the choices the court faces.
And it does seem, looking from outside the United States, that legally momentum is building on this issue. We have not just Arkansas, but this year alone, legislators in 13 other states proposing outright bans on abortion. Do you think that means that even if it doesn't happen with this case in Arkansas, that at one point or another, the Roe v. Wade issue is going to end up in the Supreme Court, and that's where this will be decided?
Well, I think it's likely that at some point the Supreme Court is going to have to take up the case in one iteration or another. In other words, they may continue to chip away at Roe v. Wade rather than overturning it entirely, or they may overturn it entirely. There's 2 separate things going on that probably will require a resolution, and that's why there was such a battle over these last 3 Supreme Court justices that were installed during the Trump regime, so to speak, including the most recent one right as the election was going on. The 2 competing forces are, one, as you mentioned, these states, which are predominantly southern states, but they're all red Republican states. They tend to be a little bit more rural as a generalization. They are increasingly aggressive in enacting and putting into force legislation that they know will be struck down illegally, but they're simply trying to push this all the way through the appeals process to get to the court, to force the Supreme Court to make some determination. But on the other hand, now that there's a Democrat, Joe Biden, in the White House as president, there's a room for federal legislation as well. And so there's some things taking place at the federal level where they're trying to codify through statute some of the existing protections. And that might take away some of the pressure for the Supreme Court to act. So it's difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen, but there is on the right, on the cultural Republican right, this heavy emphasis on pushing a legal and forcing a legal resolution at the Supreme Court.
And just finally, Sam, briefly, if you could, you touched on in your first answer the ideological divide on the Supreme Court at the moment. Donald Trump made 3 well-publicized appointments to the bench. From a legal perspective, do you think that will be the most significant part of Trump's legacy, tilting the bench to the right?
Well, no question that will be a very significant part of it. There's other significant issues going on which concern Trump himself and the future of his political party, and some would say democracy as we currently know it. So that's obviously a very big issue. But on the cultural issues, this abortion one has always been a big driver, and that is partly what helped him galvanize support among his political base. They were willing to put up with a lot of other things if he would deliver to them the 3 justices that he did, because they're fairly aggressive on this issue. So he wants that to be his legacy. Mitch McConnell wants that to be his legacy. Many people in the Republican Party do want that to be their legacy. It doesn't mean we can predict how it'll turn out, but what has been predicted and what is turning out is a push to force these judges to rule on it in a way that the people who put them there want them to rule.
Eric Lisann in Washington, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.